Hello, beautiful people. Welcome all to today's exciting debate. Today, we are here to discuss the future of Web3 and the next big trend to take the world by storm. Our speakers are some of the most respected and knowledgeable experts in the field, and they will be sharing their insights and predictions for the hottest Web3 trend of 2023. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a lively and thought provoking discussion today on the future of Web3 and the next big five to hit the scene. So let's welcome our speakers. Antonio Morales, community lead at Stader. He's a former advisor on multi chain strategy to several DeFi protocols and also a DeFi maven. Welcome, Antonio. So happy to have you here.
Thank you, Diksha. Very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Nice. And then we have Adam Zhao, CEO at Era7. He's an early adopter and an angel investor in Web3, also a digital marketer and super familiar with the growth hacking techniques. Great to have you, Adam.
Great. Thanks for the inviting. Hopefully we can have a great fight today.
For sure. And finally, joining me today is also Maggie, co-founder and CEO at Yuliverse. She's, again, an experienced investment professional and a corporate strategist. Welcome, Maggie. So happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. All right, so now before we get started, a quick one on the rules. I think it's important that all of us kind of stick to these guidelines. So I want to request all the speakers to kind of provide evidence to support their statements and present accurate facts. In addition, just refrain from introducing new points in your cross-questioning segment. And the debate will basically have three stages: a discussion, a cross-questioning, and a conclusion segment. And each stage will be allocated a specific amount of time, which is 8 minutes for presentation, 4 minutes for interactive cross-questioning, and 4 minutes for the conclusion. Now, as you all know, there is also a live voting for this debate, and those who claim their NFTs from Galaxy can participate in the voting process. The voting period will be open until 12th Jan, 10 AM UTC. You know what? I'm going to cover everything on prizes towards the end of this debate, so stay tuned. This is sure going to be a very heated and excited one, as our panelists are going to argue for the FI that they believe will dominate the market in 2023. Who will come out on the top? You'll have to stay and find out. So let's get started and dive into the future of Web3 now. All right, let's get started with our first segment, where panelists are going to put their perspective in detail for 8 minutes each. Antonio, why don't you kick us off?
All right, wonderful, Diksha. So let's get started. So I'm part of the Stader team. Stader is a liquid staking platform, and therefore I'm going to be defending DeFi today. DeFi, short for decentralized finance, was pretty much born in the summer of 2020. And I think everyone could see that the last bull market that we had in 2020 and 2021 was unlike any other that we had before in 2013, in 2017, 2018. The big difference that happened in this last bull market is that the blockchains that had smart contract functionality were able to span all these DeFi protocols on top of it, and that brought a orders of magnitude bigger number of users and also attention from institutions. Attention from institutions, it's something that I'm going to be referring to a lot in this debate today. And it's because I believe that DeFi is the Trojan horse of the whole crypto industry into the hearts and minds of the people that have the money and have the decision making in the real world, in the Web 2 or in the traditional finance, TradFi. And those are the people that, with the potential and the ability that DeFi has to bring TradFi services into DeFi and do so at a much efficient level, it's when they're going to have their money and their time and their attention be brought on the crypto space, and that's going to be helping the broader ecosystem and the broader categories, such it could be GameFi or SocialFi, for example, right? So I'm going to be structuring my argument today in two main parts. One, I'm going to be talking about what DeFi has achieved so far in its barely 2 years of life. And in the second part, I'm going to be talking about how much more room to grow there still is and how much more potential for DeFi there is to capture more users, to capture more capitalization, to capture more assets, right? So I hope that by understanding how far we have come so far in the DeFi industry, but also how much more room to grow we have, you understand why I think DeFi will be the hottest trend in 2023. So let's get started with that first part of the conversation, which would be what has DeFi achieved so far, right? So DeFi as of today, in the turn of 2023, has 40 billion in total value locked, TVL, which is a very important metric in crypto. However, it had a peak of 250 million, okay? 250 million might seem like a lot, and that would have made the equivalent of DeFi to be one of the top 20 American banks out there. You see, I'm saying top 20, signaling that there's still a lot of room to grow, because the likes of Chase or Bank of America, each of them have more than $1 trillion in assets, right? It is still interesting to highlight that out of those 40 billion that there are in TVL, just a tiny slice of it, it's of its twin, which would be the total staked value in blockchains like BNB Chain, in blockchains like Ethereum. Liquid staking only represents today 5% of the total staked value. But if you see that 5% growing to, let's say, potentially 50% or 100% of the market, you would see several dozen billions being brought into DeFi, right? And the more liquidity there is into DeFi, the more user-friendly it is and the more efficient and capital efficient it is. And therefore, the more eyes and the more attention it has, right? Another metric I wanted to highlight, one was TVL and the relationship with total value, with total staked value. Another metric would be market cap, right? So according to CoinGecko, when you see the categories, all the DeFi platforms have a combined market cap of $35 billion, right? With Uniswap, Lido leading the charge. GameFi, in comparison, for example, only has 6.5. SocialFi still hasn't probably coalesced as a category itself. It doesn't have a separate category in CoinGecko, right? But it's clear when you look at the numbers on DeFi Llama, CoinGecko, that where the money is moved first, the leader of that charge, it's always DeFi, right? The decentralized finance applications. I would like to highlight also some of the milestones that have happened thanks to DeFi in the last 12 months. For example, in this year, we saw the EIB, which is a subsidiary of the European Central Bank, issuing its first bond on the public blockchain, on Ethereum, right? The beauty of DeFi or TradFi, if you say so, is that it really has a lot of different categories that you can bring into the blockchain, because you have saving, you have lending and borrowing, you have stable coins to do payments, you have asset management, including wealth management, you have insurance, right? So it is, when we talk about DeFi, in fact, it's an umbrella term that it's encompassing services that everybody in this world uses, right? So when I talk into my second part of the conversation, which is going to be, I'm going to be moving now, which is how much more room to grow we still have. We are going to see that despite all the improvements that DeFi has done and all the milestones it has crossed in 2 years, there is still so much more to do, right? 2022 was also the year where, for instance, JP Morgan started using not only Ethereum, but also Polygon Network. It was also the year where DAO Maker, which is the issuer of the decentralized stablecoin DAI, issued 10 million credit facility to Société Générale, which is one of the biggest French banks, and also 100 million to an American bank. So we have seen a lot of intertwining of traditional finance courting DeFi and vice versa. For example, BNY, which is one of the biggest banks in America, did a survey and found that 91% of their investors are interested in learning more about digital assets and potentially including it in its portfolio. So when we talk about the room that we still have to grow, right? TradFi is an industry of $10 trillion size. And if you add derivatives, it already spikes to pretty much $1 quadrillion, although it's very difficult to estimate. If you add, for instance, gold and silver, it's another 10 trillion USD. And we have seen with Pax Gold how easy it is to bring it into DeFi. So it is a huge TAM, total addressable market. And for instance, in comparison, gaming is just a $200 billion industry, right? So we're talking about several orders of magnitude bigger. When we talk also about the room to grow, I was saying before how many users at the end of the day use savings, asset management, one of the things I had mentioned before, right? In comparison, video games, for instance, would be only a portion of the society that would be using it. And the last one I wanted to talk, but I don't know if I have time, would be transaction volume, because Ethereum and associated blockchains like BNB covering 5 million transactions per day, which pales in comparison with the 1 billion transactions that you see in TradFi as of today.
All right.
Back to you, Diksha.
All right. That was amazing. Thanks, Antonio. Great points made on the potential of DeFi. We've definitely come very far, like you said, and there is so much more room to grow. And that TVL metric was, again, spot on to prove the point. Moving on, next up is Adam from Era 7 on GameFi.
Okay. So we finished let me go into the my statements on the GameFis. So basically, let me quickly go through with the introduction of Era 7. So you know where we are in the market. So basically, Era 7 is a light competitive battle card game, similar to Hearthstone, but we innovated with the gameplay. So we finished one game in 3 minutes, and you can access via mobiles and PC and also browsers. So basically, we launched the game last year, end of March, and we achieved roughly 350K registered users and 220K wallet verified users. And now it's a top 3 DAU trading card game on the Binance chain. And the NFT trading volume, we actually reached roughly $13 million in 7 months. So the thing is, because we launched the game after Axie Infinity and after Steppen, which is the 2 big names known by the industry people, right? And we actually finding that if we keep investing in gameplay, which you increase your retention rate, and then if you investing in entertainment way and also your the make it easier for players to access, you can make easier for the user growth. Once you finish these 2 steps, and you found you actually nearly reach the sustainable economy system. And so we think we nearly work out a model for Web2 games. So back to the question. The question is, which FI you believe is the hottest trend in 2023? So there is the 2, I will say, way you need to think of. One thing is which FI, and then the other way is in 2023. So as we can see, after all this happening in Web3 about the cryptos, especially for the security issues, the DeFi, actually there are a lot of worry about DeFis. And SocialFi, because they require a lot of infrastructure base. So in that case, I think SocialFi will be growth in the next few years, but not in 2023. So back to the GameFi. I will make my statement in 3 perspectives. The first one is the market size, and the second one is existing investment and the builders size within the industry, and the third one is the overall economic situations in 2023. So basically, we have roughly 3 billion online gamers in over the world, and in the Asian market, roughly 55%. So up to 2014, the mobile game industry will earn the market size roughly 116 billion US dollars with the total market size. But in the Web3 game, we roughly only reach nearly 10 million users. 10 million users, not active users. Roughly active users is nearly just 1 million. So we have a tremendous amount of users are not really into Web3 and not into the games. So basically, this is the, I would say it's a blue sea market. So once you understand the market size and also it's a blue sea market, there are huge companies and also a very quality gaming studios will jump into the fields to dig the mine. So, and if we're looking at existing investments and also the builder size in this GameFi industry, roughly 30% of the investments goes to GameFi last year, and there are tremendous 3A games and also big players like FunPlus, Tencent, Ubisoft. They all jump into the field and prepare to do a lot of stuff. So basically, we can understand within the next year, we can see more quality games coming out of coming into the market, and also there are more builders jumping into the market. And there was another figure I want to share is 50% of the wallet interaction related to GameFi. So if we're looking at the dApps, that's over with the daily active wallet address, that's over 10,000. You will find it definitely is a GameFi. So I will say 90% will be the GameFi dApp. So basically, if we want to expect there is a super app to be in the market, known by everyone, that will be a game to start with. I won't say it will be continual. There's nothing coming out from the other 2.5, but I will say the GameFi will be the one responsible for this growth hack for the industry. So, and we can also see that from the case studies, starting from the GameFi 1.0 Axie Infinity, and the Stefan is joining the is a cross marketing with all these I will say the healthy builders from the traditional markets. And what we can see in 2023, I will see the first thing is over economy. It will still struggling of the over economics, and the people are cautious about investments and their asset security. So, but however, they're still looking for opportunities. So I will say the quality games comes out, and the more big players jump into the field, will providing the content that users need. And once these two meet together, so we will see there will be more. I will say the best experience will coming and lets the users to stay in the network. So they come for the application and they stay for the network. So that's why I see not only from the overall investors, from the market size, from the builders, and from the users, we all need GameFi to bring the benefit to this industry in next year, because this is the nearest Fi we actually can access and can make it applicable for many use case scenarios. That's my statement.
Fantastic. That was really thought-provoking, Adam. Thanks for that. And lots of interesting numbers there that lay the ground for GameFi in the future, especially the point around the market size that you mentioned. Very promising. All right. And finally, we have Maggie from Yuliverse on SocialFi.
Thank you. Shall I start? Okay. So thanks and hello guys, this is Maggie and I'm actually co-founder and CFO for Yuliverse. This is a GameFi infused social and lifestyle platform. We're not a single game. Appreciate BNB Chain's invite to join this very first debate and share our thoughts on the New Year's big trend in Web3. Firstly, we have to say 2022 has been a dramatic year with the Bitcoin drawing down a lot and the FTX collapse. However, we noticed that despite the uncertainty surrounding the potential fallout, there are important characteristics that distinguish the market from the previous, crypto winter, and shaping the crypto landscape for the years to come. Firstly, you can see the institutional crypto adoption still remain very robust, and a lot of investors take a long-term perspective and recognize the seasonality of the nature of the market. And rather than stepping back, they're choosing some way to hone their knowledge and build the infrastructure to prepare for the future. So tapping into the specific areas, SocialFi has become the hottest terms on the market right now, similar to the DeFi in 2020 summer and also GameFi in 2021. Those are the well-developed, the industry in the past 2 years. So everyone, including us, is expecting SocialFi will bring the new traffic and energy to the industry and become the biggest trend in 2023. I'd like to deliver my points into a few topics. The first one, why SocialFi has opportunity. SocialFi, as the name suggests, is social and finance, allowing users to earn tokens through the social behaviors. To put it in a simple way, such as Yuliverse, where Pokemon Go and Tinder combine together. So that's why we enable our users to make friends and earn, moving the social network to the blockchain. And we believe the success of the Web2 social platform can be duplicated in Web3 with this proven track record of the most user scale, the network effect, the longest user time, and also this stronger the user retention. Look at WeChat, how many users they have. It's 1 billion daily users. And also ByteDance, it is the second longest time spent as social app. And also Tinder, right? They have over 100 million monthly visits. So in Web3, we believe SocialFi carries the unrivaled potential to disrupt the whole industry. Second, why SocialFi is necessary and why we need it. Firstly, we have to be aware of the limitations of the traditional social platform. The first one is actually the lack of the natural ice-breaking scenario to chat. Look at Tinder; they're only based on the appearance for social. And it comes to Soul, this is a big evolution to have the avatar as the undisclosure face for social. But both of them actually lack of the natural ice-breaking scenario. However, in Web3, we can provide those kind of scenarios such as games like Yuliverse. We leverage city haunt games as scenario to chat. The second limitation is actually such as the social media platforms such as ByteDance or YouTube, TikTok. Those video content creation, they have the issue of the centralized high take rate, the KA focus, and also the traffic is very expensive. And the third limitation is actually the data, right? The data ownership based on the centralized platform, not to the user. And also they have a lot of complicated infrastructure and the regulation as well. That's why, due to the limitation, but also leveraging the strong social platform success, Web2 social platform will become the innovation hub for SocialFi, and they will try for a position for the Web 2.5. Another reason why it is important because the blockchain has speed up the SocialFi development. We can at least trace the two trends. The first is actually the increase in the UGC socialization, leveraging games and also on-chain DeFi protocols as infrastructure. Both of them show out the basic traits of a human desire. What is that? The desire to actively create, to share, to express, to compete, and to get recognition rather than just simply passively play. The third part is about the maturity of SocialFi. So here are some data and also certain type of the project already, show the SocialFi already getting very mature. We have the dynamic storage of the decentralized social data, such as ceramic network to ensure the privacy and autonomy. We have the social graph protocol to help users to own data and the free to roam across the blockchains, such as CyberConnect. We'll also have the social credential platform, represented by the NFT, such as Galaxy. And also we have the deed, we have SBT can help build Web3 identity and bring the value propositions. So that's why the layer 2 is getting more mature to transform into the application layer. The fourth part is actually what kind of the industry pinpoints SocialFi can solve and become complementary. Firstly, let's look at the GameFi. We know, actually in the past 2 years, the GameFi, the game industry, they're getting a lot of money from the industry, especially from the VC side. There are over 700 projects right now on the market. Only 5% are active right now. Majority of them already inactive. And less than 15% of the project is actually only have over 1,000 active users. And most of them actually doesn't have any the external ability for the monetization. They have the limited token utility. But we believe SocialFi will lead games to go scalable and also sustainable. Second, let's look at the industry about DeFi. The same problem. They don't have the new users. Their infrastructure is so vulnerable, and also the revenue is so minimal. And we believe the SocialFi, who can bring the real world assets, will be the bottleneck breaker for DeFi. Not only DeFi, not only social, but also other majority of the projects in Web3 right now facing very strong pressure for the user growth, improving the user retention, the token utility, the lack of community. They don't have external or go-to-market strategy for monetization. So we believe all the projects should develop into a sustainable way that is deep dive into users' needs and enable social functions for a dual flywheel effect. And the fifth part is about the industry and also the investment attitudes towards SocialFi. In the past 2 years, a lot of investments surrounded by the infrastructure and also games, right? When the infrastructure getting mature, the application layer are going to be the next focus. And actually, in 2020 has demonstrated the success of DeFi and 2021 for the GameFi. So far, SocialFi is on track to deliver those kind of the advantage of the traditional platform and convert more Web2 users into Web3. So games shouldn't be the single games. A16Z, the general partner, John Lai, just expressed his point is actually the most successful application should be the game-powered platform to attract the user volume, accumulate user time, cultivate the user habit, and thus tap into social and lifestyle application. That's exactly what Yuliverse is doing right now. And actually, the industry looking for something that's Web 2.5, something attacking to the real economy will be the direction for a long-term project. So to sum it up, I think, with the strong unrivaled new traffic potentials, maturing the infrastructure, proving track record of the Web2, social platforms such as WeChat, such as TikTok, such as YouTube, just mentioned, and also the successful history of DeFi in 2020 and GameFi in 2021 in the past few years, SocialFi is definitely set for the next opportunity window in 2023 and become the industry bottleneck breaker. That's kind of the points, from the Yuliverse team side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie, for that comprehensive breakdown on SocialFi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I love the points you kind of mentioned on the new energy, SocialFi being the new energy in the industry. Also, making great points on how much the pressure is on DeFi around user experience. That was really amazing from all three of you. Thank you so much. Moving on, we are going to move to our next segment now, which is all about cross-questioning on the points made by the fellow panelists, right? And I love this part because it gets really interactive here and you can really question and argue. And we have 4 minutes each for every round here. So let's get started on the first one where Adam is going to question Antonio on his points.
All right, Antonio. So I threw 2 questions to you. So basically for centralization has caused a lot of problem and hence providing the rooms for decentralized finance. However, the permissionless and the smart contract-based DeFi actually, they promote Code's law. On the other side is hackers are judges. So I would like to see how do you face the raising concern about the security issue? That's one thing. And the second one is a lot of DeFi starting from a person or from a team, which is centralized. When it goes too big, how do you face the legal pressure from a certain government? That's my 2 questions.
All right, so thank you so much, Adam. So you touched first point, security, second point, regulation. And I think it's very interesting. Thanks for asking, because you're pinpointing 2 of the growing pains of DeFi, but also of the topics that I think the industry is most focused right now on fixing, right? We're seeing a lot of hacks, a lot of exploits. That's true. You go to Rect News, you go to InfoSec, you have more than 100 hacks and exploits having happened since summer 2020 in just 2 years. But it is undeniable that with every hack, with every exploit, what protocols are doing is strengthening themselves and hardening themselves, right? Blue chip protocols like Balancer, like Yearn Finance, have suffered exploits at their early beginnings. Thorchain, which is a fantastic decentralized protocol, has been hacked 3 times, right? And after that, there has come a myriad of auditors and white hats helping strengthen the network. So I believe this is part of the growing pains. For instance, what we do in Stader, although this is at an individual level, we look at security as a multi-pronged approach, right? So multiple third-party audits is one pillar of it, of course, but we also spend a lot of money on on-chain monitoring, firms like Forta, Certora. We spend a lot of money on bug bounties with Immunify, for example, and we also make sure we have multi-sig in all our wallets, right? I believe that you need to approach security as a multi-layer approach rather than just saying, hey, I'm going to do an audit and therefore my protocol is secure, right? And at the end of the day, it's also by standing the test of time that protocols get hardened, right? And that people can trust with their money and their TVL in that protocols. So I believe the industry is growing and also a lot of OPSEC is being developed, right? To answer the second part of the question, which is regulation. Look, I really think that in these early days, crypto and DeFi, it's a little bit like Wild Wild West, and that has to change. I think that we are going to see one of the main waves coming in 2023. It's, of course, privacy, and it's also compliant privacy, which is going to be a way for institutions to be able to handle private transactions, because a lot of institutions will not move into crypto if they don't have anonymity, if they don't have privacy for their own users or for the other companies that they represent, but they want to do so in a compliant manner. So the moment you do it in a compliant manner, the moment you play a little bit with permission rules, but still using distributed technology, then it's at that moment where, you know, the floodgates of TradFi are going to be open and trillions of assets can hop in the blockchain, right? I don't believe the current code is law, Wild Wild West model will attract trillions of dollars, but in a compliant manner, in a regulated manner, it will. Back to you.
All right, yeah, thanks. Amazing interaction there on security and regulation, right? That's kind of one of one of the major talking pointers that you guys brought up, and great comeback there, Antonio, talking about multi-layer and a holistic approach on regulation as well. Let's move on to the second question in round, which is from Maggie to Antonio.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I have 2 questions for Antonio. The first is actually for the DeFi platform. They struggle to generate meaningful revenue, just not mentioned about, right? So for example, for the L1, Algorand, they have market cap over 1 billion, but they generate less than 100K US from the DeFi activities. So according to this kind of data, and a lot of the DeFi protocols are much smaller and less capitalized in the major L1s. How can the ecosystem remain sustainable when it lacks revenue? That's the first question. The second question, because you mentioned a lot about the TVL, which is the total value locked in DeFi, right? But basically, I checked the data. In the last 2 years, the data TVL, which down 80% from the peak. And a lot of the DeFi-related tokens are typically offered as rewards and are constantly under sell pressure because users just dump them as, they want to monetize. So how do you see like the DeFi protocols are just, dump and pump this kind of, do you not agree? So these are the 2 questions from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, sorry, I need to put my camera. Thank you so much, Maggie, from Yuliverse. So you touched 2 points, right? One is on sustainable revenue. The other one is on TVL and the fall of TVL. I don't really like your example because you've put the example of Algorand, right? I believe that when you're talking revenue, I mean, by far the biggest revenue out there, it's made by Ethereum, but it's when you're talking about the layer 1, you're making fees out of the users in transactions fees with gas fees, and that's not user friendly, right? I mean, this is one of the reasons why BNB Chain is such a juggernaut, is because they provided a cheap alternative to Ethereum. So I don't like to look at, DeFi protocols. When you look at Uniswap, when you look at GMX, when you look at Aave, Curve, SushiSwap, they are actually at the top of either Token Terminal or cryptofees.info, which is the 2 places where I look at revenue. And I'm looking at it right now. For instance, Uniswap has made $500,000 in the last 7 days in fees. GMX has made 160K. Aave has made 160K, right? So not all DeFi is generating a sustainable revenue, but many dozens of platforms are, right? And I believe we will progressively reach that point. Another point you have mentioned is TVL and how, it's down from its peak of 250 million down to now only 40 billion, sorry. And you mentioned it's a drop of 80%. It's a good number, 80%. I'm a head of community in Stader Labs, so I'm managing a lot of engagement, traffic, interactions. Pretty much what I can see when I talk to other protocols, also layer ones, other blockchains, we pretty much see a drop of around 80 to 90% on the engagement and on the user and on the traffic, meaning that for every 10 people that were active at the peak of 2021 in Telegram, in Discord, messages, etc., there is only one left right now in the bear market, right? But the good thing is that, the same that on that prolonged bear market of 2018, 2019, all of that DeFi infrastructure was built, and we saw a huge slingshot in 2020 with the summer of 2020 and so on. I believe a similar setup is happening now, right? 80-90% of the people has gone out. Builders are still there. Developer activity hasn't dropped 80 or 90%. And that's when you know that the fundamentals are playing well for the industry. And this is not only true for DeFi, this is true for all categories of crypto, including SocialFi and DeFi, right? Yes, it's a drop, 80%, but nothing that we haven't seen, right?
All right, that's the time up alarm and sustainability. That's interesting. We all have seen how important that is in 2022, right? And we saw an excellent discussion on TVL there as well. Thanks, Antonio and Maggie. And next up, we'd have Antonio questioning Adam.
Wonderful. So yeah, Adam, I also have I really liked your questions for you. Number one, well, you were mentioned, as you said, like the topic of this debate is the hottest fund in 2020. And I think that 2023 will be at most a year of market recovery, right? Because we are in a depressed situation right now. And if we put the example of what happened in last cycle, I really feel that DeFi always leads the charge, right? You saw that DeFi 2020, you saw protocols like Uniswap, like Compound, like Aave, like PancakeSwap, bring in ton of users. And then later into the cycle, you saw GameFi blockbusters like Axie, like Illuvium coming into play, right? So I wanted to question you because I really think that, GameFi being a bit more secondary in terms of importance, right? Like DeFi, really, it's something that people can see more because it's something they use day to day, transactions, payments, savings, money market, etc. Don't you think that it will be again DeFi leading the charge in 2023, and then later in the cycle we will see a rotation to other things? And the second is that we have seen blockbusters in DeFi, like PancakeSwap bringing hundreds of thousands of users, but we have failed to see a similar fundamentals on GameFi, right? Like there are projects that have raised several dozen millions, but because the GameFi normally raises at a time where they haven't pretty much developed the majority of the game, etc., it's really difficult for those games to keep the hype all the way in, right? So do you see that a problem in how the fundraisers work in crypto that could be hindering?
All right. Okay, let me back to the questions. So the first one, you're thinking about leading with the DeFi trend, and afterwards you see the GameFi. Actually, I think that's the first run. in the second round is different, because when we're considering the whole ecosystem in the Web3, the whole economic, if we consider as Web3 as a separate country, right? Every country's economy grows by the population. So the population grows, you're creating more activities in the economy, and then you're creating more stuff, and the GDP goes up. So basically, the current situation is, after the COVID, we don't have much money yet. Like the inflation is going there, so the overall economic activities actually are going down. So in this case, we need creating more content to let people to interact with, and also to get driving more people, especially in the Web2 world, people into the ecosystem to educate them. And in this case, I will see GameFi is more like a toolkit, or is a conveyor of the message to change their mindset coming into the field. And to the second question, there is no huge platform that's sustainable in here. I will say so. There is no, because within the game is coming into round. There's no one will be the king all the way. And that's the magic of why GameFi is so active, like, so people want to reach the mountain. Okay, I was scared by the timer. That's why actually I was on time.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was actually listening. It's amazing, the discussion on how Antonio says is GameFi day to day, and your comeback on how the world needs more economic activities because they need to boost up the economy, and GameFi could create that. So yeah, great one there. Let's move on to the next one, where Maggie's gonna question Adam.
Sure, Adam. I have also two questions for you. The first is actually just now mentioned about by the end of 2022. I just checked the data, which is over 1,500 GameFi project, only 62 are active. That's less than 5%, right? And also 15% of the GameFi project are having over 1,000 users. And just now I catch a very interesting word you're saying about the interaction between the users and also the social network. So how do you see the reasons behind just now the data, and also what's the pinpoint? How are you going to solve the problem? Is that like you are leveraging the social network, and also just now mentioned about interaction, which is a SocialFi to solve the problem? Is it a good way, and why? This is the first question. The second is basically, I'm not too sure whether your project already got listed for the tokens or not. I see like a lot of the GameFi project right now is a token centric, and the project rushed to list their token without meaningful content and community. And a lot of the GameFi players tend to be investors who are looking for short-term return on investments. All those contribute to the Ponzi style, the unsustainable ecosystem. And also outside the game, they don't have any ability to monetize for profitability. Do you agree that? And actually, how are you going to solve the problem? That's the two kind of question from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. So basically, from my point of view, your question actually are coming into one question: is how, as a GameFi project, will survive in the marketplace? It's actually applied to DeFi, applied to GameFi, and also applied to SocialFi. But the basic business model, and I will say you need to generate new users. You need to drive new users coming into the ecosystem, and you need to drive the activities so you can making the transaction fees, or you issue new NFTs because they buy the NFTs because your game is really good to play. So the current situation, the scenario is fact. So there are thousands of games, they issue tokens, they issue NFTs, and then you see there's less 1,000 DAUs within the game. The true reason here is because the first batch of entrepreneurs in this industry, they bring in I would say DeFi games in the beginning, and then they trying to bring blockchain games. So when we do the number of games, basically those games are not survive. They cannot survive in Web2 world. So from my perspective, if your game is not survivable in Web2 world, you won't bring it in Web3, because Web3 is a more severe competition. You're not only driving, you not only compete with Web2 games for users, you also need consider your token economics for sustainable growth. So in this case, I would say so. First, you pick the game will not only survive in Web2 world, the game should be thrive in Web2 game. And then you're adding the token economics because you would like to share your profits with your users, and you're building the communities. You're trying to increase the economic size of the game from 1 to 10 to and then to 100, and then you're making the transaction. Basically, you lower your, for example, if you sell equipment to the users in the game, you tax them 100%. Right now, I charge for the trading between them the 5%. I basically down my transaction fee down my tax rate from 100% to 5%. But what I'm looking for is I increase the total economic size for more than 100 times to make it more sustainable. So I think for every GameFi, they need to consider this, how they build their ecosystem sustainable. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. A lot of important messages there. I think one that really stood out is everyone has to basically keep generating new users. But thanks for that discussion. All right, next up, Antonio questions Maggie.
Sure, Maggie. I just have one fundamental question, right? One challenge I want to make, because you said 2020 was the year of DeFi, 2021 was the year of GameFi. Therefore, you think that now it has come the time for SocialFi to really shine, right? I disagree with that view, because I think that DeFi has really been evolving at a breaknecking pace, right? And you have seen how the mechanisms it was born in 2020 has rapidly changed, right? For instance, you only had a DEX, which was an automated market maker AMM model. You have quickly seen, stable swaps, concentrated liquidity. You have seen perps and order books coming on chain, which you couldn't have believed at the beginning of DeFi just 2 years ago. So I still see DeFi creating features and adding value at a much faster pace than any other category, right? And building up upon a point that Adam made is that SocialFi really needs a huge network effect and infrastructure to be built. And I don't think we are there in terms of network effects. We have talked how much of the people now has left the space, and infrastructure is still being built, right? So don't you really think that it will be once again, DeFi attracting people in the space once again, and that will be the bait for other categories of like SocialFi to be developed and also build on the infrastructure that it's being developed for other categories like DeFi? That's my question to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Basically, especially in 2023, I think why we talk about, the biggest trend, because basically we have to combine with the market situation right now. It's like a lot of the investment, entity like VC, whatever. I talk with them, because I take a trip, last 2 months, in the US. A lot of people are very, concerned right now, because the only thing they see the value is actually from the users. So I doubt actually the DeFi, continually actually have the catalyst to bring more users into this industry. And also another kind of the data I want to share is basically this year, 2022, over 2 billion US has been stolen, hacked from the DeFi protocols. It is the highest on record. So basically, for a lot of investors, they are so concerned about whether in this year, why they have strong, this kind of motivation to continue put the money in DeFi. And from a lot of the data shared from the investor side, basically, a lot of portfolio, they put money into DeFi, and also GameFi dropped down a lot, not only because of the underlying tokens that dropped down a lot, but also because of a lot of problems just not mentioned about, right? So because of a lot of problems just not mentioned about the lack of the users, the lack of the infrastructure infrastructure, which is very vulnerable. Like 2 billion has been stolen. So that's why a lot of people are concerned about DeFi to continue to be the 2023, the investment focus. So actually, I doubt actually DeFi gonna, install the confidence in users because it's so vulnerable to attack, and also a lot of rug pulls there. And just now I mentioned about also like if you have the users, you're gonna have the user, retention and user time. And then later on, you can, cultivate the user habit to do the, monetization. And I was like, I think the main reason just now why I actually mentioned about Algorand, maybe you said like it's not a good example because it's so iconic. Because a lot of the DeFi project like this, because they generate very minimal revenue, but their market cap is over $1 billion. This doesn't make any sense. And for this, I don't think any smart investor going to put money, in 2023, continue saying like DeFi going to be our, investment focus continually in the 2023. So that's kind of my, color on this kind of question. Thank you so much.
All right. Now it's the final round of this segment where Adam questions Maggie.
Okay, so all right. Actually, I will continue with the question of Antonio. Is because basically we believe the SocialFi has tremendous potential due to the network effect. And Antonio mentioned that about the infrastructures. Actually, it's a barrier. It blocks the massive adoptions. But from my side of I will continue digging into this, because when you talk about the huge internet companies in Web2, basically a lot of them are based on the social network. And when you do SocialFi on Web3, how do you think, like how much the incentive do you think is enough to let the Web2 users to give up their social networks and the connections and then move into the Web3? So that's my question.
Thank you so much. So the first thing I want to say is actually, I don't think the Web2 company, they have to give up anything to tap into Web3. Just to give an example, just I mentioned about, I think the Web2 platform going to be the innovation hub for a lot of companies to try to leverage about the Web 2.5, which is basically for a lot of projects, you have to combine with the real economy. That's why for a lot of projects just now, why we have the conversation just earlier, because a lot of these single games, they don't have this kind of a capability for the go-to-market strategy to generate a lot of the profitability outside of the game. That's why a lot of the Ponzi games is actually coming there. So right now it's like a lot of the Web2 company, not only just not mention about like WeChat, Tencent, but also like Baidu today that they realized the news, right? So a lot of people trying to tap into the Web3 industry, leveraging their user the accumulation in the past few years, and also the social network. So this kind of things I try to say, they don't give up anything. They just want to, leverage a lot of the, data accumulated, in the past few years, and also a lot of the real economy, which generate the real value for the users to try to tap into the Web3. The second question just now mentioned about, from you and also Antonia is mentioned about the entry barrier for the SocialFi, the infrastructure side. So here I try to, highlight one keyword, that is investment trend. Why we call it investment trend? Because we see the opportunity. If anything is perfect, we will not see any opportunity there. So basically, I believe, especially for right now, a lot of people say like the infrastructure is not sufficient, but a lot of bottlenecks in the user growth and also the user stickiness, because I think there are not very good, SocialFi project there. If say like, look at Yuliverse, right now we have, 70,000 people in our Discord. We built all of them from scratch. We never spent any money on that. And also on Twitter, we have 70, 80 or 80,000 people on Twitter. We built all of this in half a year. And basically, we believe if you focus on the users, you're gonna tackle a lot of problems just now you mentioned about the infrastructure, because for the application layers, we have to focus on the users instead of the infrastructure. So that's why my purpose or my main focus is actually in the 2023, the investment trend focus on SocialFi, because we see a lot of the problem, even say like the success for the DeFi and also for the GameFi in the 2020 and also 2021. The next one for the investment horizons or the trend is actually focusing focus on something that's actually have the opportunity to convert more Web2 users into Web3. That's definitely, for the SocialFi part, which is, like Yuliverse, we are actually a GameFi infused social and lifestyle platform. We're not a single game, because just now mentioned about the single game, how are you going to convert a lot of the users from Web2 to Web3? Because you have very high, teaching, this kind of, opportunity cost for them. So that's kind of things, to answer your question. Thank you.
Thanks so much. That was so energetic, folks. And to all you listeners, we want to see your comments in the comments box, on some of these questions, interactive discussions that just happened between the panelists. So keep them coming. All right, we're now entering the final segment, which is all about conclusion, right? And each of you will get 4 minutes for this. And Antonio will kick us off again.
All right, wonderful. So this was a very enriching debate. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'd like to make my conclusion a little bit recapping what I started saying, and also what I have exchanged with Maggie and Adam. And I will be recapping why I think DeFi is going to be the hottest trend in 2023. I'll be giving 3 points. So the two first that I touched on the debate, it's what we have achieved so far, why we still have so much room to grow, in particular in DeFi, and then the third point that we have talked in the exchanges is the current state of the market, right? Because it also influences the fact of which one will be the hottest one in 2023 in particular. So we talked about what we have achieved so far in DeFi. We have seen bonds coming into the blockchain. We have seen credit facilities between DeFi and TradFi. We have seen big banks like JP Morgan, BNY, having separated crypto divisions, let alone all of them having already digital assets reports. 35% of the money that it's in custody today, it's made by traditional finance institutions like JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs. And even like JP Morgan, for instance, went from saying that crypto was a Ponzi to say that it will be the future, right? And that's the first mover advantage there. It's for DeFi because it's the biggest ground of sharing with TradFi. We have also talked about how much more room to grow there is, how much more potential. We have talked about TAM, total addressable market, and how in the case of DeFi, it's on the several dozens of trillions, right? Because we're talking about such a huge industry encompassing savings, encompassing loans, encompassing asset management, right? So these several dozen trillions dwarfs makes other industries like GameFi, for example, dwarf in comparison, right? And in terms of users, also when you think about how many users how many people out there either have a loan or have a savings account or have assets under management, it's pretty much 100% of the population. It's very rare to have unbanked people out there. It's much more rare to see those people being gamers, right? Because we're only talking about certain segments of the population. And the third point I'd like to touch, and we have discussed a lot during the debate, is if we're talking in particular about what is going to explode in 2023, then we need to take into account the macro market situation. And we have seen in the past DeFi leading the wave and other more speculative categories, SocialFi, GameFi, coming at a later time, right? And I believe this is definitely what's going to happen in this case. When you look at the market today, what are the raging trends? Today, right now, it's LSDs, liquid stake derivatives, perpetual dexes and order book dexes. You have like GMX versus Rage Trade versus Gains. So you still see DeFi being the pillar of crypto in terms of users, in terms of narrative, in terms of fees. Because you go to cryptofees.info, you go to token terminal, you see that the DeFi protocol's on top. And I believe that's going to be leading the charge. I finish my debate with one data point, and it's that CK Money, which shields transactions in the network, and it's able to make your transactions in Aave, Uniswap private, raised $100 million just last month. There is no other category right now in the crypto space other than DeFi that can raise $100 million in one fundraise in the current market situation. That's it for me. Back to you.
Thanks. Nice one, Antonio. All right, next up for conclusion is Adam.
Okay, so my point is about the GameFi, and still I rephrase my position is I truly believe the GameFi will be the hottest trend in 2023. I previously mentioned from the three different perspectives. The one is the market size. The opportunities are there. So the investors, both investors and the builders are very sensitive for the markets. So we already seen there are so many 3A games are under development, and also the big players like Epic Games, Ubisoft, they already down there to develop and bring their best products into the market. So basically, we can see so many good quality contents will come into the market to meet the needs of the users. Which back to Maggie's points, like why their GameFi have non-huge daily active users, because the contents are not meet users' expectation. But if there are the users coming to the network and they stay for the contents. So and the second thing is about the creation of the new networks. Is about the gaming is more like a vehicle. They bring in different scenarios, apply for SocialFi, apply for DeFi. So actually, from my I can both the point from the Maggie from Antonio. Actually, they're coming into a new idea coming into my mind. It's more like GameFi is like a vehicle of delivering the contents to the users. However, in the sense, GameFi, the SocialFi will be the tools or the case of the user growth, and the gamification is a way of sustaining the users, and the DeFi will be it's more like adding oil into your engine, so to lubricants all the users incentives to allow them to drive them into the ecosystem, and also to increase their activities to a certain actions. So from this point of view, I will say, so for the GameFi 3.0, for every GameFi project we are doing right now, and also for the big players, so they are trying to looking for, is the first one is a sustainable economy, which means they really give the values to their tokens, to their NFTs, and the reason for users to buy the NFT, not only reason they want to trade, because the funding is fun, and it's more like a entry point for the governance. And the second one is the gamification. Is about the gameplay. So you're creating a long-term value for the gamification. In this case, we have two different factors we can see. The one thing is, if there is new users into the project. The second thing is, if the retention rate actually same level with the game in the Web 2. So once we focus on these two, the new users and the retention rates, we actually enter, I will say, into the gamification 3.0, which I expect the hottest in 2023. Thank you.
Wonderful. Right, over to you, Maggie.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's a great sharing between the industries, and I really appreciate learning so much from the teams. Like, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Antonia. I hear your advice and a key point that indeed SocialFi is still in an early stage compared with DeFi and GameFi. And there are a lot of promise, such as the efficient infrastructure, bottleneck in user growth, and the user stickiness and the lack of the good projects. However, we cannot deny that the trend means opportunity, means early adoption, means significant room to grow for return. I think with the help of the several represented projects, the industry will be more confident to attract Web2 users into Web3 from the SocialFi. I will try to address the key points here again that SocialFi moving the social network to blockchain had the unrivaled potential to become the 2023's biggest trend from the following 5 perspectives. The first, we believe the success of Web2 social platforms can be duplicated in Web3 with proven track record of the most user scale, the network effect, the longest user time, and the strongest user retention. In Web3, SocialFi carries the unrivaled potential to disrupt the whole industry. And Web2 social platform will also become the innovative hub for SocialFi and try to get a new position for the Web 2.5, just not mentioned about. The second part is actually for the SocialFi, which is the SocialFi is needed in Web 3. It can solve the limitations from the Web 2 of the no nature icebreaking scenario for social chatting at the centralized platform with high take rate, the KA focus, and expensive traffic, and also the no data ownership due to the complicated infrastructure and also the regulations. Besides, the blockchain has speed up the SocialFi development. The increase in the UGC socialization leveraging the games and the on-chain DeFi protocols or infrastructures, just I mentioned about, both show us some basic traits of the human desire. The desire is actually to actively create, to share, to express, to compete, to get recognition, rather than just simply passively play. So the third part is actually the infrastructure. So infrastructure is getting mature with the dynamic stories of decentralized social data, which ensure the privacy and autonomy. The social graph protocol, which ensure the user own the data and free to roam across the blockchains. And also the SBT can help build the Web3 identity and value propositions that's not mentioned about. And number 4, we believe the SocialFi can be complementary, solve these current industry pain points in the way of leading games to go scalable and sustainable, and generating the real world assets will be the bottleneck breaker for DeFi as well, because we can generate the new user growth, improve the user retention, improve the token utility, and actually help improve the lack of the community, and also bring certain type of the external or go-to-market strategy for the monetization to have the ability for monetization. And the 5th part is actually for the industry. They are very excited to see more SocialFi projects rather than single games, rather than the DeFi just I mentioned about in the 2023. Because I mentioned about the A16Z, the top VC, the general partner, John Lai, he has expressed his point about the most successful application should be the game-empowered platform to attract the user volume, accumulate the user time, cultivate the user habit, thus to tap into the social and the lifestyle applications. So game cannot be the only game. You have to combine with social to go further. So to put everything in a nutshell, we do believe with the strong unrivaled new traffic potentials, maturing the infrastructure, proven track record of the Web2 social platforms, and the successful history of DeFi and the GameFi in the previous 2 years, SocialFi is definitely set to be the next opportunity window for Web3 in 2023 and become the industry bottleneck breaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie. That was so insightful from all of you, really. Thanks for being so energetic, honest, and comprehensive in all of your points. All right, so we've kind of come to the end of this debate. And like I said, there is a live voting on where you had to claim your NFTs from Galaxy in order to participate in the voting process. Again, the voting period is open until 12th Jan, 10 AM UTC. And at the end of the period, there will be a raffle after which 90 winners who voted for the winning team will be selected to share the final prize for 100 BUSD each. Prizes will be distributed to raffle winners within 2 weeks of the debate's conclusion, which is now. Now, right before I close this, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank our panelists, Antonio, Adam, and Maggie, for being so futuristic in their arguments. It was so amazing to be a part of this today. Any last thoughts?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, again. See you soon. Have a nice one.
Thank you.